Hey everyone, it's me, Drew Afwalo, host of the Comment Section Show. Come join me and one of my iconic special guests every week on the show as we dive into the dreaded comment sections of our tagged videos and take down the most terrible men on the internet, period. Somehow, they won't go away no matter what I do, no matter how incredibly awful and mean I am to them, but I don't mind doing this work. In fact, if I'm being honest, I think it's God's work. So make sure y'all follow me on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts for new episodes every Wednesday.
Hey there. Welcome to the Artist Pivot Podcast. I'm your host, Ayana Major-Bay, and joining me today is Elise Arsenault. Elise is an actor, audiobook narrator, coach, entrepreneur, and creator of the global actor and the great audiobook adventure. She has undoubtedly achieved success by embracing change and seizing new opportunities in her career. Elise shares her journey of finding her voice and how she has been a disruptor to the status quo even before she knew what the term disruptor meant. Elise opens up about how difficult it was to leave New York, but ultimately realizing it was the best decision for her career and well-being, because the development of the concept global actor wouldn't have been born without her living outside a major market. Throughout the conversation, we touch on the importance of self-care, recognizing and embracing different aspects of ourselves, and staying open to new possibilities, especially during challenging times. Elise shares her experience transitioning from musical theater to audiobook narration and teaching, demonstrating the ability to pivot and discover new opportunities in the industry. So get ready for an inspiring and thought-provoking discussion about finding your voice, embracing change, and living a fuller life as an artist. Let's dive in. Come take a listen and let your inner artist play, creating your dreams step by step every day. If you're feeling lost and don't know what to do, always remember that you can pivot to the artist pivot. The artist pivot. Hello, and welcome to the Artist Pivot Podcast. I am your host, Ayana Major-Bay, a multi-hyphenated artist, and I am glad you are here. A couple housekeeping things before we get into the conversation. First, to keep up to date on all the things happening with the podcast, subscribe to the monthly newsletter at ayanabay.com/podcast. Second, to show your support for the show, you can get podcast merchandise at ayanabay.com/merch. And third, please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, and share this with at least one person. Enjoy the episode. We Audition is the video chat community where actors can audition, self-tape, rehearse, and get expert industry advice. Get instant self-tape readers through video chat, browse through the dedicated actor meditations, podcasts, and books, meet casting directors in the virtual green rooms, and also make money by becoming a reader for other actors. If you join We Audition and use code PIVOT, you will receive a 25% discount on your membership. Link in the show notes. All right, y'all. So today on the podcast, I am so excited to say that joining me is award-winning actor, audiobook narrator, coach, and entrepreneur, Elise Arsenault. Welcome, Elise. How you doing?
I'm doing so well. It's so good to be here. Thanks for having me, Ayana.
Yes. Of course. You're very welcome. You're very welcome. So I have two questions to start off the podcast, my favorite ones.
Okay.
So number one, have you had enough water today? Like, how are your hydration levels?
Oh, that's a good question. Not quite. I actually have a full bottle of water with me, and I have a sparkling water, like a Spindrift with me. I have a little bit of hydration catching up to do. Thanks for asking.
Yes. You're welcome. You're welcome. I had the same. Sometimes I'm like, oh, y'all, I'm on it today. And other days I'm like, all I've had is a coffee. So I guess I should start sipping my own water.
Yes. Oh, that's so good. Yeah. I kind of pride myself on doing at least 64 ounces a day. I've probably taken in like 10 so far. So yeah.
Understood. Yeah, I might be around, how big is this? It might be like 15, 18 ounces.
Nice.
We'll see. But yeah, 64, I used to do 64 because I have a big water bottle that's like a baby carrying it around.
I need one of those. Does it have like the signs of like, does it cheer you on throughout the day? Like,
it doesn't. It just has the numbers. Okay. I need to get the ones that cheer. This one just has numbers. Yeah. But it's a baby. Like, it's heavy.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to carry this around the house all
No,
day.
you don't need to do that.
Yes. And then my second question to you would be,
Mhm.
if I texted you right now and said, Elise, how you doing? How you feeling? How's your day going?
Yeah.
But you could only respond in emojis only, what would you text me?
Ooh. I would probably send you like that relaxed face emoji that
Mhm.
looks like a smiley face, but it's
Is it?
like
Yeah.
chill.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm. Ooh,
And
I like
and
that.
because I've like really made space in my day, I had a pretty full schedule, but I was like, no, we're gonna move this. We're gonna move this. So
Mhm.
I've intentionally made space so that I could be here with you and not
Yeah.
worried about what else is happening.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that. Thanks for that imaginary text. I appreciate it. I'm
Mhm.
like, "Ooh, she's in a zen mode. I love it. I love it." Yes. So y'all, I know Elise from the great audiobook adventure, which we will get to. We will talk about that on the show today. But what I want to start with, I'm just going to like dive right in. So I want to talk about listening to your voice as like a human being, but also as an artist, an actor,
Mm.
entrepreneur, a coach for you. But you shared something with me that said sooner or later you have to listen to your voice and share it with the world, and the less you'll
Mm.
suffer. And that for
Mm.
years you thought you had nothing original to say, but like we
Mhm.
all have perspectives and like all have something to say. And so
Mhm.
I want to talk about, first of all, how you got to that point of like, wait a minute, no, I
Yeah.
got something to say, right? And we
Yeah.
could go as far back as you want, but like that hit me when you shared. I was like, oh, because I had to get through that as well, of like
Yeah.
thinking I didn't have something original to say. And it's like, no,
Mhm.
but we all do have something original to say.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much for this question, and thanks for bringing that up here, remembering me sharing that. Hmm, I think I found my voice in different ways at different times, but I think overall, what I see working with hundreds of actors over the past several years is that actors, we can be so quick to dim our shine, which
Mhm.
is really weird because our whole job is to be standing in the spotlight. But for
Right.
some reason, we actually dim our personal shine. Like our own, I find that it's like, oh, I'm comfortable with a script. Oh, I'm comfortable preparing for a certain audition, but I don't have anything original to say. Like we actually do. And we have so much more probably than other folks because of the different ways we've put ourselves in other people's shoes. We probably have
Mhm.
so many opinions, so many takes. And
Yeah.
so I think like the first time, something that I heard a long time ago, I think it was in a podcast. And I think
Mhm.
that even helped me solidify this wall I was putting up between my original thought and the world is a long time ago, I heard about somewhere on some podcast, they were like, okay, we have creative artists and interpretive artists. And
Ooh.
actors, you are interpretive artists. You're interpreting other people's scripts, but you're
Mhm.
not the creatives. You're not creating, you're just interpreting. So I think I took that on to be like, oh, yeah, okay, I'm good at interpreting other people's art, but I don't create my own. That's not my job. So I don't know
Mm.
who said that in what podcast,
Right.
where, like 10 or 15 years ago when I heard that. But
Mhm.
I think that idea was limiting to me because we are all creative.
Mm.
Every human is creative and we are meant to
Mhm.
be creative beings. So I think as I first found my voice, hmm, I think the ways I've always found my voice has often been like in service of an issue that I cared about. So I
Okay.
started using my voice probably, in high school, I was like my class president and I used my voice. Were you also?
No, I wasn't.
Okay.
No,
Okay.
no.
Just the way you took that in, I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh, cool, cool, cool."
Mm.
Yeah. So when I was the class president, basically, I didn't like what people were doing. I thought there was more I could add value to, and there was a privilege that had been taken away. There was basically a courtyard in the middle of our high school that had been shut down for years. Apparently, there had been like a school shooting
Oh.
10 or 15 years before, and they just shut it down and were like, yeah, we're not going to deal with this courtyard.
Mhm.
And my junior or senior year, I was like, what if we start opening it as like a senior privilege? And I fought for that. And like the executive board that was working with me fought for that. And we got that privilege. And since then, that courtyard has been open for like senior privileges. And so it reminded me of the power of us sharing our voice. That was probably the first time I understood like the power that my voice could have for other people. Then in college, I created my own degree in musical theater because they hadn't done a musical at my college in like the whole time I was there. And I basically was in college for music education, but I knew I wanted to be an actor. And so I was like, I should be able to participate in the musicals. Wait, why aren't you doing musicals? What's going on? So I did straight plays. Like I basically got theater experience, straight acting experience, and then opera experience. And I also played my trombone like in the band. So I was doing all these different things. But I realized like, hey, why are we not doing a musical? I brought that up. I became like a little disruptor in my college. And I was like, yeah, this is important. And so I did a senior thesis my senior year, which is called Defying Gravity, because Wicked had just come out. And I was like, listen, I went and it's so funny because I went and found the program notes of that senior thesis I presented with a number of my friends who are also musical theater performers. And when I looked at the notes, like in the past year, it was hilarious to me because I was like, we're defying gravity and we're defying Mason. And I went to the school called George Mason. So it's just so funny. So it's just like, I'm laughing at it because I had power then and we all have power. Yeah. And so I think I often forget about those times. So I have been using my voice probably earlier than that, but I forget over time. And I will get caught in like not having power, not thinking that my perspective matters. And so again, I found my voice again when I created the Global Actor, which came out of my living outside of a major market and noticing no one was talking about how, as an actor, you can have a full career living outside of a major market. So that's where the Global Actor came from.
Okay.
And then I think most recently, probably when you heard me talking about this, not sure I had something original to say. I think it was around creating my own acting work for myself. I think that was the last place where I was like, oh, I can share my stuff. And so a few years ago, I wrote like a short film script, and I remember just the resistance I had every step of the process. I even signed up for a program that had this showcase where I had to there was a deadline, they were going to showcase it. And I turned in this script. Literally, I sent it to my actors 5 minutes before the performance.
Oh, no.
So I was so afraid of this.
Yeah.
Sharing my voice and wondering if what I had to say was interesting or important. And then this past spring, I wrote a cabaret with my friend Erin. And again, that was this journey of realizing I do have a unique perspective and it's worth it just to share it for my own process in getting my experiences out in the world, wanting to share a story, but also it's my experience that whenever anybody shares a story, you never know how it's going to affect people and everybody takes something different from it. So that's my long journey of finding my voice or finding that idea that we do have something to share.
Right. Understood. And thank you for sharing that. Because it is scary. And even going back to what you were saying about like the the interpretive, creative, and like the, I guess more, I don't even want to say creative, but like as actors, right, we're taught, oh, I'm interpreting somebody else's work, right?
Yes.
I'm very good at that. But then creating my own, we hide. And it's like, well, why do we hide? Like, why is that something that we're so scared of? Like you said, like our job is to be in the public. Like literally that's our job is to be standing in the spotlight.
Yes.
But yet putting a spotlight on ourselves can be very intimidating or like, well, I don't really have anything to say or who's going to listen to me. Like I think I said that when I was younger and I had a friend who'd be like, what are you talking about? Like what like I listen to you.
Yeah.
All of these people is like right, like having that perspective of yourself. Like, what is that? Now, I don't know if we have the answer to that question, but like, what
Yeah.
is that?
I have an idea. I think
Okay.
my idea is that it's probably the structure of our school systems here in the US, and just so much just like, you need to do things this way and there's no other way. And so the lack of creativity from a young age, I think we start as such creative beings and we do a lot of play as children. But then when that changes, when you're in kindergarten or first grade and you have to start doing things like in really like a militaristic kind of fashion, that's where that comes in. And then you continue to experience more of that. And unless you're in opposition to that, which is like creating ways to be in play,
Yeah.
is my guess.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that's definitely part of it, right? Because yeah, we're creative beings. I believe that too. We come into the world with creativity and then it's right. Oh no, you guys need to do this once school starts. Unless you get homeschooled, it's a whole different situation. But like, no, once you're in the school system, you're right. It's like, oh, you have to do it this way, or you all have to do it this way. And it's like,
yeah,
but we
my
don't.
husband, Justin, my husband and I talk about this a lot, how like in school, because we've both worked in school environments, there, I don't know if you remember, but there used to be like with textbooks, like certain sections, like at the end of a history book, for end of a history lesson, for example, there were like these sections like, okay, answering questions within like, just like clear black and white answers. Like what did it say? But there was like always a part C that was more like creative thinking. Just like what is your opinion? Not like what is your opinion, but it was like after taking in all of that information, being able to be analytical. I think that I noticed in my schooling, like those would be always the things that, oh, you don't have to do those sections, or yeah, no, that's bonus points, but you don't really have to do that. So I think that lack of integrating your learning, again, a lot of us missed out on that. Probably folks who went to like really advanced schools probably got to do that, but we weren't doing that in my school.
For the rest of us.
Yeah.
we didn't get that.
Yeah.
But we're here now. We're here now. And questioning some of those limiting beliefs and questioning, but why do I have to do it that way? I don't want to do it. I'm going to do it this way.
Yes.
And so that actually leads me to asking you about, making your pivots from like, I know musical theater was kind of how you started in the industry.
Yeah.
And now you have the global actor and audiobook narration. And so like, how did you even discover that you're like, oh, wait, I think I could read books and that's like a thing. And like, and then I could teach other people. So like, take me on that journey.
Yeah, totally. Well, I've always been a teacher in some way, even though I resisted it for like a good decade. I come from teachers. My dad was a band director. My mom was a singer and also teacher. So they met in music education. And so that was like very much instilled, being of service. But I was very resistant to that. I was like, I didn't want to do what they wanted me to do. I was like, no, I'm going to be an actor and I can only be it in this way. So I think I was just like, no, it has to be this way. But my senior year in college was the first time that an opportunity came up that was like, well, you can be an actor and a teacher at the same time. My first job out of college was with Missoula Children's Theater. So really unique opportunity with this organization in Missoula, Montana, that hires actors to teach, basically go from town to town anywhere in the US and even abroad to bring a show to the kids, and you actually direct the kids in the show. And so we would put together 1-hour musicals in a week with like 50 to 60 kids. So it was super intense. Like I love that high energy kind of thing. But so I didn't want that job at first because I was like, no, that's teaching. I just want to be acting. So it's like, I think my whole life, the universe has just been like, you're going to do both. You're going to do both. Just do both. And I think when I was coming up, like in the early 2000s, there was still a lot of stigma around, well, if you're a teacher, you can't be an actor. Like, I think that's just something in the industry that thankfully is going away. I think being a multi-hyphenate is here to stay. And I think it's finally cool to be a multi-hyphenate. I look at folks like Ryan Reynolds, who is like an entrepreneur in all of the ways.
Yeah.
And I think as artists, as actors, we need to embrace that. Our acting career doesn't need to look however we thought it was going to look at the age of 16 or 12 or
That.
22. Let's
That.
keep expanding and evolving. And shout out to you, Ayana, on your recent episode where you talked about that, like the multiple
Thank
different
you.
income streams, or sometimes we have to go back and do the thing we used to need to do. There's nothing wrong with that. And I think that's like actually using your creativity in your business, like realizing you just sometimes need to pivot in that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Absolutely. So I found audio to jump ahead. So teaching, I've always been a teacher, and whether I wanted to or not, I've always been a little bit bossy, like with my friends. I would be like, if someone, as soon as I learned how to do something, I would want to teach it. So like, I remember in college learning how to format a resume and like from someone, and then like, okay, cool, I'll take that on. Now I'll help other people do that. And so it's just fun for me to be like, oh, I can help you. You don't have to struggle. Let's go. Let's play with this.
Yeah.
So I found audiobooks when I was probably 2014. I had joined Equity and I was finally working consistently as an actor, and I still wasn't paying the bills. I was doing like 3 to 5 contracts a year, which should have been enough, but it wasn't. And so I was like, all right, we need to crack this code. We need to figure it out. And so I had done some strategy coaching with a couple career coaches in the industry, and starting to really just get, I wouldn't say more adult, but just like long-term visioning. What actually is possible? Maybe I can someday make $300,000 as an actor. What would that look like? How would I need to try out different things?
Yeah.
And so I started to explore voiceover, which I had done like a little bit of in college, but had never really explored. And then as I was looking into commercial voiceover, I started to notice people around me were doing audiobooks. And that was such a good fit for the theater actor to be like a 9 to 5. So I was like, yep, gotta check that out. And so I did. And I, with the help of like a few different career coaches, like really started consistently doing reach outs and just fearlessly putting myself out there and asking for what I wanted, and, you know, making sure my tools were ready for that. And so one of my first multiple follow-ups to the same people, led to my first audiobook narration job, which was with Tantor Media, which was at their studio in Old Saybrook, Connecticut. And that first job led to the next job, led to the next job. And here I am like 9 years later with almost 200 audiobooks under my belt. And yeah, thank you. And so it was like, there were so many things about it that I loved. Mostly getting to use all my skills as an actor.
Yeah.
And getting paid well for it. Like basically what I was doing for 2 days in studio, what I got paid for that was equal to 2 weeks of that current Equity contract I was also on.
Ooh,
so I was just
and
like,
you didn't have to do 8 shows.
I was just like, this just makes sense. It doesn't, I didn't have the same feeling that I got from being on stage, but I had to pick and choose. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to do this and I'm going to find ways to bring this into balance. So once I figured that a couple years in, I was like, okay, now I need to start telling people about this, because I don't want everyone to feel that same struggle I was in.
Yeah. Understood. I understand that. And that is something that if you have the information, to share it, right? And you are of that mindset. I know there unfortunately are some people who are like, well, I have it, it's for me, right? We're not talking about them today. We're talking about those of us, including myself, who are like, I have the information, but what would it benefit me to keep it? Like, I kind of have to share it. Like, it would irritate me if I didn't share it, right?
Totally. I believe in like the energy that we all, I mean, we are all made of energy, right? And so like when we do that, there's something that when we block that energy and we're not giving, we're not able to receive as much. So I think that's something that is worth exploring for everyone to just like notice. What do you hold on to? What secrets are you holding tight onto? And what do you think that's getting you? What is that getting you?
Right.
And what are you missing out on by connecting or helping other people?
Exactly. Because that's the whole thing. when you are connecting and helping with other people, you're also receiving. Like,
Yes.
you're literally receiving from the other person as well. Like, it's not just about you giving. There
Yeah.
is reciprocation, even
Mhm.
if it may not be in that immediate second. It could be something, oh, I remember what they said about da-da-da-da. Or you know
Yeah.
what? They did volunteer their help and I didn't need it then, but now I need it.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
like, what? Like, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
This connection. And like, I don't know. I think that's the way I was brought up, was like, what's meant for me is meant for me, right? And
Mhm.
so me keeping the information could also be me blocking someone else's what's meant for them, because I could be the one that has to tell them the information.
Mhm.
Right? Like, I also
Yeah.
believe in divine timing and synchronicity. And it's like, oh no, I was supposed to be the one to speak up and tell Elise this thing so that she can then
Yeah.
go do that thing.
Yeah.
But if I keep my
Yeah.
mouth closed,
Mhm.
I've just kind of messed this whole thing up.
Yeah, in an interesting way, it just reminded me of just like in acting, like if
Mhm.
we close ourselves off, we're
Mhm.
not in connection and that's not going to be a good performance. Like we need to
Yeah.
be in a place of openness and reacting to what that person's giving. So the
Mhm.
more we can embrace that throughout our life, it's my experience that we just can feel more flow.
Yeah.
And even if something's not working the way we want it to, we can
Mhm.
more easily pivot. We can more easily find the next thing. Okay, that's not working. What else can I try?
Mhm. Mhm. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think you're reminding me of a conversation that I had with someone that was like you said, of like being open to flow, and
Mhm.
then we can easily pivot, but that person was tired of pivoting.
Uh,
Like, I'm like, "Oh yeah, I
well,
mean,
that person needs to rest.
right, right? You take a break.
Yeah,
Take a break
we all need
then,
to rest
right?"
too. And I that's something I see a lot is like
Mhm.
sometimes a lot of my clients are feeling like some sense of burnout right now.
Mhm.
And the antidote to that is a lot of self-care.
Mhm.
And that's really hard for a lot of us who just weren't raised with that. Our society still doesn't like, even though more people are talking about it, it's you're not going to get rewarded for taking time off, but you've
Right.
got to do it anyway, and you've got to reward yourself.
Eh, it's that. It's that. Rewarding yourself and resting,
Yeah.
because there's also that, like, if you're not rested, if you're not coming in with your
Yes.
full self to whatever medium you're in,
Mhm.
you're not gonna benefit anybody or the
Right.
character you're playing or yourself. Like, it's just it like you said, we've been taught by society kind of backwards. You're just
Yeah.
like, "No, no, no. Resting
Mhm.
actually will propel you forward." This
Yes.
whole trying to do everything all at the same time, and that's
Mhm.
keeping you back because 'cause you're tired.
Exactly. And this reminds me of when I lived in New York full
Mhm.
time,
Mhm.
and it wasn't a fit for me, but was forcing it to be a fit for me. I was forcing
Ah,
it so hard because I had this childhood dream that New York
yeah.
was going to be my city.
Yeah.
And I had just left DC, but it was also the recession. So it was the worst
Mm.
time ever to move into New York City. So I had a few problems. Like I had totaled my car when I was in
Oh,
DC.
no.
A
Mhm.
national tour I was supposed to be on got canceled because of the recession. So I was moving to this city with such lack.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
the city, like I waited tables like at a restaurant on Broadway. And I remember being like, I'm working on Broadway, but like, this is not what I pictured at all.
Mhm.
And that January, February, March that I was working there, I remember I worked there longer, but I remember those first 3 months, them
Mhm.
saying at the restaurant, it's never been this dead ever. And so it was just like the energy of like
Yeah.
everything I was in was just like, this is not going to be an abundant time.
Mhm.
And when I moved back to my home state, Rhode Island, and like took my parents up on their invitation to move back home, which felt like it felt to me at the time like I was letting myself down and I wasn't
Mhm.
going to achieve my dreams. That was the best decision to like
Mhm.
retreat and to regroup.
Yeah.
And I remember just like sobbing as like they drove like probably like the whole ride home or
Mhm.
like,
Mhm.
and it's just like so much pain.
Mhm.
However, I can see that moment of retreat, that moment of switching it up, ultimately gave me the space I needed to then have everything else happen in my career. Like I wouldn't be
Right.
here today. I wouldn't have a global actor. I wouldn't have an audiobook career. I don't know what I would have been doing if I let myself continue like burning myself out in New York, because I would be so exhausted. I would get callbacks or auditions, but I would show up so exhausted that it was just like, I'm not putting my best foot forward. So who cares if I got the audition? I'm not
Right.
going to be competitive.
Right. Right. And they say what hindsight's 2020 because
Yes.
right, that moment when you thought it was just like I let you let yourself down. You're like, I got to move back with my parents. I got
Yes.
like but again, right, you wouldn't be here if that changed the course of your life.
Yeah.
That moment of okay, I guess I have to do this.
Yeah.
And I know that sometimes we feel that, right? Like in various aspects of our lives. Like I can even say that I felt that, especially during the pandemic. I'm like, wait, who am I?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
all musical theater. Like you
Yes.
couldn't tell me that musical theater wasn't going to be the nucleus of my life.
I
And
know. I get
now
that
it's my side
identity.
chick, child. It's my she over
Yeah.
here, theater's over there. I got other things to do, right? But it's
Yeah.
the identity, right? And
Yeah.
that like grieving, if you will, of the
Totally.
ideals that you had, of the dreams, like you mentioned before, 16-year-old you, 22-year-old you. And it's like, no, your life completely went on a new path because you're like, this hurts, but I have to do it.
Exactly. And like how beautiful for you, Ayana, also embracing like creating this podcast that has had an impact on so many of your listeners, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That wouldn't have happened if you didn't let yourself
Nope.
pivot.
Surely would not have happened
Mhm.
at all. At all.
Mhm.
But that having that identity destroyed has
Yeah.
kind of been a blessing, right?
Mm.
Like I was a musical theater actress, that is it.
Yeah.
And then when the world literally shut down and
Huh?
I couldn't do that, it was like,
Mhm.
well, who am I? And what do I
Yeah.
really like? But also, what are my other talents that I had been
Beautiful.
resisting?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that sounds like me with like teaching. Like, yeah, finally seeing other parts of yourself.
That
Mhm.
seeing other parts of myself was very much like, oh, but you also you don't have any choice right now.
No, you
The
don't.
world is shut down.
You can be mad about it and do something, or you can be mad about it and just be mad about it. But that energy isn't really, again, that's the way to stay stuck.
Right. That's not helping anybody. That energy is not helping
No.
anybody. Right. So yes, I feel you on that of like, you had that moment, but look at where you are now because of
Mhm.
that moment, because of
Mhm.
like, even in all the pain, going, okay, but I still have to do this.
Yes. Mhm.
Yeah. And it's not easy. Y'all, let's be very clear. We're
Yeah.
not saying it's
Oh my gosh.
easy.
I'm in the middle of making a decision right now about a theater audition that I got
Mhm,
called for that I'm like,
mhm,
ooh, past me would be like, hell yes, I
mhm,
love this so much. I'm going to put
mhm,
everything to the side. But right
mhm,
now I'm looking at the dates of the show and other plans that I had for other
mhm,
things that I'm doing. So I
mhm,
really see myself as so much more than I
mhm,
used to, you
mhm.
know? And
Yeah.
and this is like it's going to be an ongoing thing of like what things I say yes to, what things I say no to, and I have to say no to a lot more than I used to
Yeah. Yeah.
because I'm living a bigger life. I have more opportunities. How wonderful. I get to choose. Do I want to go in this area and speak, or do I want to do this thing that pays nothing and like what is it about that? How can I create that acting opportunity for myself over here where I can still express as an artist and also show up as a speaker and also show up as a business person? So yeah, I'm excited about where I'm at today. It's just like broadening and
Mhm.
I'm so excited about the people I'm helping broaden as well. And
Right.
like, I actually have a small group of creatives I'm working with outside of audiobook narration right now, helping folks build out their businesses
Mhm.
and their other streams of creativity. And we meet every other Monday, and it's like the most lively part of my creativity
Yeah.
ever. And I just get so much life from that. So I'm so excited to like help other people find all of the facets of their creativity, because
Mhm.
the world needs that right now, for sure. They need
Oh,
all of us to be creative and show up and share our voices.
absolutely. Abso-freaking-lutely. And I just want to put a pin in what you said. I didn't want to interrupt you, but I just wanted to yell. I wanted to be like, say it again for the people in the back. But like that you're living a bigger life. And I think that's the whole kicker. Like, right, like
Yeah.
living a bigger life, allowing yourself to have a bigger life. And that does mean saying no to things. And I know for artists, that could be a little scary.
Yeah.
Well, if I say no to this, but then it's you have to think about what are you saying yes to if you say
Yes.
no to that.
Yes.
And you're living a bigger life and also a fuller life.
Yes.
Like, is your intention to live a full, like that is one of my intentions for this year was like, I intend to live a fuller life. Meaning
Awesome.
it can't just be around the arts. I'm going to go hang out with my sister. I'm going to go to my cousin's
Oh,
birthday. I'm going to do like
yes.
all of those
Yeah.
things that I missed before because I was always on a contract.
Totally relate. Mm-hmm.
It's like, no, how can I balance it? How can I have
I
a
know.
healthy mix of both? Because I know that my schedule can also be unusual. I understand that.
Mm-hmm.
But also, if I make plans, I want to join in. I'm gonna commit to those plans.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. 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 Mm-hmm. I totally relate. I think about the weddings I missed while I was in shows, and like I will still probably miss things from time to time. But it was
Yeah.
like a hard, like, oh, I'm just gonna miss this. I'm just gonna miss this, because the contract and I got to do the next contract. Like I had no other. Like that was the thing. That was everything to me. Was the next a theater contract.
Yeah. Yeah. That was me. Present
Mm-hmm.
and accounted for. I completely relate to that. And so, yeah, to be in this place now of like, does that fit what I'm doing
Yeah.
right now?
Yeah.
No? Well, thank y'all so much. You feel free
Totally.
to swing back around with another contract
Totally.
and maybe
That's
I'll
right.
accept that one, right?
Exactly. 100%. Yeah, because
Yes.
saying no doesn't mean you're not gonna have anything else. Like, yeah,
Mhm.
you're already doing the fun things,
Mhm.
like hanging out with
Mhm.
your people. That's so
Mhm.
important.
Yes, yes, yes.
Mhm.
Okay, so I have two more questions for you. So the first one I want to ask is like, how can artists get involved with you with the Global Actor and also the Great Audiobook Adventure?
Yes. Okay. The first thing is I've got a gift for you.
Mhm.
Ayana's gonna you have a special link that I think you're
Mhm.
gonna share in the show notes.
Yes, I will.
But
Yeah.
basically I've got a free class for you to learn about audiobook narration. So it's
Mhm.
completely free, but it's an introduction to my full signature course, which is called the Great Audiobook Adventure. So in this intro class, it's called Narrate Your Way to Abundance. I love the title, by the way, because
I do too.
it's great. I'm like, I love that.
Yeah.
What I named my class. Because I really want you to think of audiobook narration as this way to be bringing in an abundance of acting work, an abundance of money in to support you in your creativity, to support you in the rest of your life. And it is a income stream that can be more flexible than other acting things. It does you could still attend the weddings, you could still do those things. It's not as cut and dry as like a theater contract might be, for instance. So in that class, I'm going to just really help you relate to where you're at in your career and decide if this might be something for you to explore. And then I teach you 3 tools to get started working with publishers, because that's how I teach actors to build an audiobook career, is working directly with publishers so that right away you can get to the well-paying jobs and you're not working on platforms that are really like the wild, wild west. And like maybe you might get a job if you audition 500 times. The point of me helping you get into audiobook narration is for you to find it a little bit more easy to get consistent acting work. So that's my experience, that working with publishers, you can build clients that way and have repeat work. So that's the gift for you. And then if you want to find out more about the course or just go directly to the course, you can go to audiobookadventure.com. And you can follow us on Instagram at The Global Actor. And this fall, I'm going to have a podcast of my own at long last. So depending on when this is shared, the goal is for the podcast to be coming out this fall. So it's going to be called the Global Actor Podcast.
The Global Actor. Oh, I love it. I love it. Don't worry, everybody. All of that will go into the show notes. So you have the information there. And then I wanted to ask you, what would be your nugget of wisdom for any artist trying to pivot in whatever medium, they may be in? But just, what would be your nugget of wisdom?
Yeah. My nugget of wisdom would be surround yourself with things and people that inspire you. So that means podcasts like this. That means community, being in community with other people who are also curious and growing, and share with people around you who do affirm you. Let your community be there for you to support you in your next transition.
Yeah. Yeah. Ooh, I love that. I love that because none of us are an island, right?
Nope.
Even though we have our moments, none of us are an island.
Yeah, it can feel like it. Yeah. If we let ourselves be, it can get lonely. But the only way out of that is to connect with someone again.
Yeah. And so I'm going to say to you, as I say to everybody, that I acknowledge you, I celebrate you, and I uplift you.
Oh, thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
So beautiful. Thanks for having me. It's been such a joy.
Of course. Same. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks, everybody.
This podcast is produced by Ayana Major Bay. Editor is Kieran Niement. Theme song lyrics written by Ayana Major Bay and Melissa Victor, with performance by Ayana Major Bay. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review this podcast wherever you listen to podcasts.
Part of the Boundless Audio Podcast Network.